Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Forrest. I am one of the adult program coordinators at the Nantucket Athenaeum. I'm here with my colleague Daniel Griffin, who is doing backup tonight, technical support. And the other hat I wear is I'm a certified life coach, and I help people with transition and decluttering and a number of things. But a lot of it is helping them find a clear purpose, be honest with themselves, and come up with a plan and execute. So tonight is, I see some familiar faces. Tonight is the third, is the third part in a workshop I have been doing for developing an off-season routine. I'm just gonna pull up my PowerPoint here. Here we are. Okay, I'm gonna move everyone down here. So as I said, finding your off-season routine, week 3. This week, we're going to talk about overcoming challenges and getting unstuck. What we'll talk specifically about tonight is going back to basics. I'm going to cover some of what I covered in the first workshop. Also finding and finding and fixing the problem, kind of really drilling down to where the issue is when you're feeling challenged. And talking about energy blocks and procrastination, which I know can be a problem for some people, basically everyone. So here we go. I'm going to start by reviewing the basics and asking you, have you set up your routine? So to develop a successful routine, there's 4 things I would ask you to think about, 4 parts. The first step is matching your routine to a goal or a purpose. So if you're feeling there's a lot of chaos and you're not very organized and there's no sense of structure and you want to create that, you want to think about why you want to create it. What are you trying to achieve? It might be you're trying to be more productive. It might be you're trying to be more physically healthy, mentally healthy. You might be trying to create more social connection. I know that's a huge piece with all of us staying home more often than we would, especially going into winter. So really get clear on what your purpose is and what your goal is. It could be something super specific that you're going to obtain in the next 30 days, or it could be more of a state of being. The second step is developing new actions and habits to support that purpose or goal. So this is going to be the element of your routines. What are you going to do and how often will you do it? So having established your purpose and the actions and habits you're going to start taking on, it can be really, really beneficial to create some accountability. That could be self-accountability, writing down your goal or declaring it out loud, or some external accountability. Maybe you partner with someone or you find someone who's specifically there to hold you accountable. And finally, once you're up and running, it's good after a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month to look back and measure your progress and maybe make some changes. Understanding, is this working? Am I getting what I expected out of this routine? It's perfectly normal to evaluate and make adjustments. Once you set a routine, it doesn't mean it'll work for life. I personally, I'll confess, am going through a transition right now, especially from summer into fall. I've taken on some extra commitments. So my routine for the last couple of weeks has really kind of gotten out of whack, and I'm myself working on getting it back on track, which is perfectly normal. So if you in the past week have started a new routine, you're trying a few new things, creating some structure, it makes sense that you'd make some changes. But first, you might want to ask yourself a couple things. If it feels like it's not working, have you given it enough time to work? We talked about last week energy detractors. So doing this can be hard. If you haven't done it before, if you're trying something new, you might feel challenged and it might initially feel like, well, this isn't working, it's not helping. But sometimes you just need to give it enough time to have the effect you thought it would. And also, before you throw it all out and start over, are there any parts that are working well? So maybe it's not an issue of starting from scratch, but you just want to examine little pieces and say, well, this is actually working quite well. I didn't expect it to, but it is. So I'm going to hang on to this and make a few other changes. So with that in mind, if you feel like your routine's not working or you've hit a snag, I want to help you really drill down to specifically where it's not working, why it's not working, what you can do to fix it. So let's look at the first step. The problem might be in here, the purpose or the goal of the routine. Are you clear on what you're trying to achieve? So you might say something like, I want to be more active. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean like physically active? Do you want to go outside? Do you want to be more fit? What do you mean? So are you really clear on what it is you're trying to achieve? Is the routine taking you the right direction? So you might have had a purpose or a goal, but you're doing the routine and it's just for whatever reason not achieving that goal. So are you moving towards the goal you had set? And once again, is your vision clear enough? It can be really helpful to get specific and measurable about what it'll look like when you get there, so you know when you arrive. And also, kind of what I'm going through now, has your goal or purpose changed? A couple of years ago, I moved back from New York and I was flat broke and trying to get back on my feet. And my goal was to make money. That's all I wanted to do. Anyone that would hire me to do something, I was on board. But then I kind of got back on my feet. I was making money and I had to change my purpose because I was totally burnt out and I was all disorganized and I was doing too many different things. So my new goal, my new purpose in creating a routine was to have more work-life balance. So there may come a time 3 months from now, your routine will change because we're heading back into spring. So just understand, has your goal or purpose changed? So if you feel like something's off here, here's a few things to ask yourself to fix it. What do you need more or less of in your routine? So do you need, do you need to be, it could be around structure. Have you created it in a way that's so concrete and so restrictive that it's kind of impossible to meet the standards? So do you need to be a little bit more flexible, or is it so loosey-goosey that you can't decide when you're gonna do it? So you might say, oh, I'm gonna run 3 times a week and it's gonna be Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, and then it rains on Wednesday. So do you need to be a little bit more flexible? Is it too concrete, you can't meet those standards? Or is it, well, I'm gonna do it a couple times this week, and then it gets to Friday and you're like, oh, I haven't even done it once yet. So knowing what you need more or less of, what's your 30-day goal? So I use the term purpose. So purpose can be a little bit more intangible, and it might be like, well, I don't know what my purpose is. So if that feels a little daunting, what's your 30-day goal? What do you want this routine to achieve in the next 30 days? And then that might seem a little bit more tangible. It might seem a little more doable. Another thing to think about when you're thinking about how to fix or adjust your purpose is, what is one priority to focus on? So it might be you want to have more energy and you're trying to do it through diet and exercise and getting more sleep. And that might just be a lot to take on. So what's one thing? Right now, I'm focusing on getting more sleep. So just find like one point of reference that you can really drill down on and focus on. Now, another place you might be running into problems is actions and habits. And what I had said initially is start small. So are you setting realistic plans? It can be really easy to be ambitious on Sunday, and then the rubber meets the road during the week and it's just things aren't working out. So are you being really honest with yourself about what you can get done? Are your actions serving the overall goal of your routine? So it might seem initially when you decided to do something that it would help. But then as you're doing it, the actions really aren't matched with your purpose. So you might want to adjust what actions you're taking, what habits you're developing. And then are there other factors keeping you from taking action? So are there other priorities you have? Are there other people in your life that you need to factor in? What else, other external factors might just be getting in your way of being, staying on task? So let's fix it. As I said, start small. Sustainable change happens slowly, and it can be helpful to set yourself up for success. So lower the bar a little bit, do a few things, do that well, and then you're more encouraged to try more, as opposed to saying you're going to do these 10 things and you get 5 done, and then you think, oh, well, I just, this is really discouraging. Try to anchor it to another activity. So if there's something you already have in your routine, is there a way that you can add on to that? So it's, you're not implementing something completely new, you're just adding on to something you're already doing. And then maybe it comes down to scheduling it. I talked about, is it too concrete? Do you need to be a little more flexible? But it might come down to just scheduling it so you actually do it. And because for me, when it's on my calendar, then I don't accidentally schedule something else there. It doesn't get forgotten. It's right there for me to see every time I open my calendar. Excuse me. Oops, what did I do? Now, the third part of that is accountability. And so you want to make sure if you have accountability, it's effective. So the accountability you've set up, are you motivated or discouraged by it? Is it helping you want to do it more, or is it making you feel like, why am I even bothering? Is the accountability strong enough? Is it pushing you hard enough? And is it kind enough? Do you need something that's a little more gentle? In coaching, what we help people with is non-judgmental accountability. So when people show up and I say, all right, so you were going to do this last week, how did it go? If they say, no, I didn't do it, I'm like, well, why not? Didn't you try? It's sort of like, all right, well, what happened? Let's talk about it. Because there's usually a very good reason. And that's part of the process of becoming more honest with yourself. So when we talk about accountability, let's fix it. What kind of accountability works for you? So do you need someone that calls you and it's like really, really active and strong? Actually, I'm going to get into different kinds of accountability in a moment, but what works for you? Is it a friend? Is it someone you don't know that well? Is it like an online group? What will help? How much accountability do you need? So if someone talks to me about coaching and they're saying, I just don't follow through. And then they say, well, can we just like schedule sessions as we go? I'm like, no, because you're looking for accountability. So it might be someone that just needs a boost every 2 weeks, or it might be someone they're like, can we talk twice a week? Because I just need that extra boost every week to keep me on, a couple times a week to keep me on track. So understanding how often you need to check in with your accountability. And how much carrot and how much stick do you need? So are you motivated by rewards, or are you motivated by someone pushing you? And I remember, I think it was on NPR, I heard about this guy who wanted to quit smoking. And the deal was he was going to quit smoking and he was going to put, I think it was a few dollars in all the money he would spend on cigarettes, he put in a savings account. And if he went back to smoking, that money had to go to a charity he did not agree with. So he was, that was a huge stick for him. He's like, oh, I don't want to go back because I'll get punished by all my money going to something, a cause I don't believe in. So that's an example of a stick. And or a reward, like some people just get the gratification of achieving what they set out to do. But if you feel like taking yourself out to lunch or having some extra TV time or whatever it is, if that'll help you, then you want to find a bigger carrot. So I want to talk a little bit, delve into accountability, which actually is a little bit like feedback. So there's a really great book called Thanks for the Feedback by Sheila Heen and Douglas Stone. And they talk about 3 types of feedback, which relates to accountability. And this is what I was talking about when I said, what kind of accountability is helpful? So they present 3 types of feedback: appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. And it's not like some are better than others. It's just understanding what you need for what you're trying to do and asking for it. So sometimes you just need appreciation. I see you, I hear you, thank you. You might need some coaching. So you might need someone to step in and say, hey, there might be a better way. What's a better way you could do this? Or evaluation. This is very cut and dry objective. This is what you said you were going to do, and this is what you got done. And so understanding what will be helpful for you can be really important when you're setting up that accountability. I had someone I worked with, and he had gone through, was in the middle of a very messy divorce, and he had all this paperwork he had to do, and he was very productive. He could do these long days, but this paperwork was it just never got done. And I said, well, what do you want me to hold you accountable to doing in the next week? And he said, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And as I'm listening, I'm like, he's not going to do all this. But I said, okay, that's great. We'll talk next week and see how you did. And he came back the next week, and I said, what, how'd it go? And he said, well, I got these first 2 parts done, but then there was all this other stuff, and I just couldn't do it. And I could have said, okay, this is what you said you were going to get done. You got this part done. There you go. Or I could have said, well, is there a better way? Is there something you could have done different? What are you going to do this week? And I could have done that. But instead, what I said, look, there's a lot of emotions attached to this, and I can tell how hard it is for you to do this, and you've been putting it off a long time. So the fact that you got these pieces done and you started, I think that's huge. I see what you did. I see how hard it is. And I'm hearing that you started. And for him, just having that level of kindness and being seen, and someone to acknowledge how hard this was, but he was doing it anyway, was what he needed in that moment. So look at yourself and understand what you need. Do you need someone who at the end of the week will give you a high five just for trying? Are you someone that wants that extra push? Or you just need something really objective of like, this is what it is. This is what you got done next week. So keep that in mind. Okay, and then this is the 4th piece of the cycle, measuring progress and making changes. So this is really important. It's really important to take that time, look back, and understand what you're doing well and what's not going well at all. So here's some questions to ask yourself. Are you getting the results you wanted? Are you doing the actions you committed to doing? And are you feeling better or worse? I mean, you could be doing everything you said you were going to do. It could be connected with the goal you set. But if you're just not feeling great, then something's off, and we have to get to the bottom of it. So here's some things to think about when you're going to fix it. Are your goals measurable enough? So you might have gotten to the end of the week or month or whatever it is, and you've kind of got your routine up and going, you're doing stuff, but you're like, is it, I mean, I guess I did it 3 times. Did I say I was going to 2 times? Like, it can be really helpful at the beginning to be really clear about what you want to do, so you can look back and check off the boxes and say, yes, I did it. What progress are you making? So if your goal in your routine was to get outside 3 times a week and get some fresh air so you could kind of reduce stress, maybe you've been doing it for 3 weeks, and then the 3rd week you said, well, I did it once the first week, and then next week I did it 3 times, and then this week I did it 3 times. So like, this is really becoming part of my routine. I'm seeing the progress. I'm feeling a little calmer. It feels good to get the blood flowing during the week. So yeah, I can feel the progress. And look back and say, oh, well, I'm not making any progress. What changes do I need to make? And also, maybe it's not revamping everything, but you need to increase, decrease, or maintain your routine. So this is more objective, looking back and saying, okay, I've been doing this for a couple weeks. It's going well, and I'm good with this. I don't need to do any more. Or it could be, I'm doing this, I got it done, but it just feels a bit much. I want to scale it back so I can keep doing it and not get thrown off track, not get overwhelmed. Or you might be feeling great and saying, wow, this is working so well. And maybe you've created part of your routine where you reset and you get reorganized. And you're like, wow, I have all this extra time because I'm so organized. What else do I want to do? And you actually add to your routine. So just understanding, looking back and saying, do you want to stay where you are, raise the bar, or lower it a little? Okay, so I kind of talked about the logistics of going through and finding where the problem is. But if creating a routine just came down to logistics, everyone would be doing it. It's not that hard. So what comes up for a lot of people is the internal blocks, the emotional blocks, the fear, anxiety, procrastination that comes up that keeps people where they are. So I'm going to talk about 4 energy blocks that can come up for people, and either hold them back, push them back, or just keep them from moving forward. And they're limiting beliefs, interpretations, assumptions, and gremlins. And they get a little bit, start sort of superficial, and they get more intense as we go. So the first one, sort of surface level, is limiting beliefs. These are rules and beliefs we have about the world around us that inhibit our ability to take action, move forward, and reach our potential. This could be something like, you know, in the winter when the days are short, it's just impossible to get outside a couple of times a week. The day is just so short. So that's just kind of a rule or a belief someone might have said. And it's just enough to keep your motivation low. But it's not so hard to break through. So here's a few questions you could ask yourself. Where does this belief come from? What might be holding you back? And what would you do if you didn't have this belief? So if you believe that even though the days are short, there's plenty of time in the day to be active, with that new belief, you might say, great, let's find some time during the day to do it. I think I can figure this out. Even just having that little bit of mindset change can help you see things as a little bit more possible. So those are limiting beliefs. Interpretations. Interpretations are a story or a narrative we create in response to an event or a situation or an experience. It may be true for us, but it's not the truth. So a classic example I use for this just in general is when you call someone and you leave a voicemail and they don't call you back. And a few hours go by and then a day goes by and you're like, oh my God, they're mad at me, or they hate me, or maybe they're lost, or they're in trouble, or they're in the hospital. Especially now when things are so chaotic, it can really, you can really go down that rabbit hole. And then all of a sudden they call you back and they said, oh man, I got a new phone and I couldn't get it charged and sorry, I haven't called you back. So all of that thought process was just the story you were telling yourself, but it wasn't actually the truth. So as you're setting up this routine, as you're going through it, start thinking about the different interpretations, the different stories you're telling yourself that might be holding you back. Now, I think that assumptions could play a huge role in routines. So assumptions are the belief that because something happened in the past, it must happen again, or because something was true before, it must be true now. So for instance, well, last winter, I promised myself I would stay active, I would be social, and I wouldn't spend every night at home watching TV. And so that's what I say I'm going to try to do something different. I tried last year, I tried the year before. So this year, I know I'm just going to end up sitting at home every night watching TV, not talking to anyone. And why assumptions are a little bit more intense than interpretations and limiting beliefs is you have evidence to show what you're thinking is true. So it's a little bit harder to turn that off. But here's some questions you can ask yourself. When did you experience this before? So think about when this has happened before and if you were successful in working through it. What's different now about you or your situation? For instance, maybe that was you last year, but now you've taken a 3-part workshop on how to create a routine. So you have all the resources you need. You're ready to go. And given your current circumstances, how true is this assumption now? So we change, things change in our life. And so you're maybe not the same person you were 2 years ago. You may not be the same person you were 6 months ago. I know I've changed. So what's different now that's going to make you more successful? Really, really coming up with a new narrative and a new vision. Oops. And then the final energy block, kind of the most intense one, is our gremlins, which is our inner critic that tells us we're not good enough. And this will pop up a lot. So this is very relevant to creating routine because gremlins tend to pop up when you're trying something new or you're doing something different. And it's this kind of lizard part of your brain that goes, no, don't change. I want to be where I am. So it can, and what's so insidious is it tells you you're not good enough in a very unique, customized, special message for you. So understanding when your gremlin is talking to you can be important. So what is this gremlin's message? There's a little exercise you can do, but the first thing you want to understand what the message is saying is I'm not organized enough. I'm not committed enough. I don't try hard enough. Like, what is that I'm not enough message? You probably have more than one. I know I do. So understanding, like, when you're trying to set up this routine, what is your inner critic saying to you that's holding you back? And here's a little exercise you can do for yourself is figure out what the message is. And you want to create an external manifestation of your gremlin. So mine's right here. I have a couple different ones, but this is one of mine. I don't know if people can see it. It's Mrs. Peacock. And she tells me you're not qualified enough. That's what she used to say. So, oops, I got ahead of myself here. So you want to come up with a name, not someone you know, and you want to examine kind of where this message comes from, and then come up with a new message. So my little Mrs. Peacock walks in the room and she says, do you know who this girl is? She's awesome. So you want to come up with a new positive message, and it sounds silly, but it can be really powerful, because what your gremlin is a piece of you. It's not all of you, but it's a piece of you. And sometimes you got this message for a very good reason. So maybe it served you for a long time. If you're someone who told yourself for a long time, people think, I'm not organized enough. I'm not organized enough. Maybe that forced you to go all these different workshops and really work to show up on time and have a schedule and create a lot of structure. So that gremlin doesn't serve you anymore because you've accomplished that mission. So now you want to repurpose it and have you tell you something more positive and more empowering. So that's what a gremlin is. That's kind of the abbreviated version of that. So understanding what your gremlin is and telling it to shh. It can be really effective. It sounds silly, but it can be effective. So work on your gremlin. Oh, and email me if you have one and tell me what you did. Okay, so those are our energy blocks. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about procrastination.
Oh.
And so here's what I've come up with. Just, there's no scientific backing to this, just anecdotally what I've seen in clients and what's been effective. Sometimes it can be helpful to do something that's a little less intuitive, but can help you bust through the procrastination. So in order, the first thing I would recommend is embrace your humanity. Everyone procrastinates. The people that seem wildly successful have people keeping them on track and supporting them and coaching them through that. So it's very natural to procrastinate. Everyone does it. It doesn't make you less successful. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just it's something we all do. And another piece of that, kind of with the example I talked about before, the guy going through divorce, sometimes you're doing something really hard. So it's not so much you're procrastinating, but it's more fear. It's more just you're really worried about delving into the project. So sometimes acknowledging that you're doing something really hard and you don't know how long it's going to take, or even if you'll get it done, can just release some of that pressure. So be kind to yourself, acknowledge the challenge you're facing, and just understand procrastination is totally normal. The second thing you can do is to do a reality check. So if you tried a couple times to start something, or you've just been avoiding the same thing over and over again, instead of starting, just get the scope of a project. Just sit down and be like, how long do I think this will take? What resources do I need? Do I need to call someone? Can a friend help me? Will it take a weekend? Will it take a month? And how am I going to get this done? And don't even worry about starting. Just understand what you have to do, because what happens is lots of the times the things we're putting off, actually this has a physical manifestation. People have storage units or basements or closets when I'm doing my decluttering work, and they just haven't looked in them for so long that they're like, you've never seen anything like this and it's gonna take forever. And we open the door and it's like, this really isn't that bad. We could do this in a weekend. So lots of times it's become a monster under the bed. So just looking at it can give you a realistic perspective of what you need to do. It might, it might be bigger project than you thought, but at least you know that and you can plan. Or in many cases, it's a lot smaller than you thought. So do a reality check. The third step is to consider quitting. A lot of people hang on to a goal or a purpose or a project that they're determined to do. And then they never stop to think, do I really want to do this? Do I really need to do it? How important is it? And if it's not that important, give yourself permission to quit. Or you might say, no, I'm absolutely going to do this. And there's no way I'm not going to finish. And at least then you're reinvested in the project. You doubled down and said you're going to do it. So I think considering quitting can be a real powerful step of just giving yourself permission to quit.
Wendy, I didn't get in touch with them. I was going to again.
Okay, number 4, lower your expectations. So I'm going back to start small. So if you've tried and then it just gets overwhelming, you stop. So especially if you're feeling stressed about the change or trying something new, find something that's really fail-proof, something you can get done, and think about what the bare minimum you need to get done to feel successful. So just take that first step. Don't lower the expectations a little bit and make it very, very realistic. You can always add more later. And then the final step in procrastination, if you're really feeling stuck, is to create a stick. What's a real cost of not getting it done? Now, keep in mind, this has to be a real cost to you. It doesn't have to matter to anyone else, but it has to be a real cost to you. And find someone that can hold you accountable to that. So an example of this for me was a couple years ago, I wrote a book that I was going to self-publish, and it was all done, was mostly done. I just kind of had to do the final draft and get it printed. And so what I decided to do was to create kind of a GoFundMe. It was a Indiegogo, but a GoFundMe account for the project. And what I did was I made the video and I put it out there because I knew if no one else, my mom, my dad, and my sisters would buy a copy of the book. So, and I knew once I got that like initial investment, it would be enough for me to finish the project, get it printed, and cross the finish line. So yes, I could have just given their money back. Yes, I could have given up, but that would have been a real cost for me. That was a cost I wasn't willing to pay. So creating that stick helped me finish the book and get it published. So understand what, kind of create that motivation for yourself. And that is all I have for tonight. So thank you. I'm happy to take any comments or questions. Does anyone have any questions for me? Go back here so you can see my face. Oops. There we go. Did someone have a question? I think I heard someone.
No questions.
Okay. What was helpful that you heard tonight?
For me, it was helpful to hear that most everybody procrastinates. I thought I was the only one.
No, you're not.
Nice to put Gremlins on the table.
Yeah, that's a huge piece that I think people really underestimate is, they come up with a plan, it sounds good, they want to do it, and then it just doesn't happen, and they're just like, I don't know why, I'll just try again. Like everything seems right, and then there's just like something holding them back, and I think a lot of people don't look at the inner blocks enough, like what's emotionally holding them back. A lot of times that's the key.
I have questions, Janet.
Yes, tell me.
How can I be a better accountability partner?
Ooh, that's a great question. Can you tell me a little bit more?
So, example, if someone near and dear to me is doing a dietary challenge, let's say like vegan for a week, how can I support them in that effort when I just want to eat shepherd's pie?
Right. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so it starts with a good conversation of what is everyone's expectations.
Like,
Um, and understanding, so if you're supporting but not doing the same
yeah,
thing.
I'm not participating.
Right. So understanding, maybe asking like what will be helpful, because sometimes we're wrong. We make assumptions about what other people need in terms of accountability. So lots of times asking and saying, well, what would be helpful? How can I support you in this? It's like a very coachy question, but it's really effective of just like,
Right.
what do you need? And it's like, well, you know what? I need you to eat at a different time. Or like, I need you to just tell me I'm doing a job, or I need you to remind me once a day. And also, so that's a piece of it, is asking for what they need and really removing your judgment. So something I say to kind of set that up is, can I make an observation of, I just want to say something, and then just say it, and then let them respond however. But just noticing and making observations as opposed to judging, which can be
Right.
hard, but it's helpful.
And then I got another one.
Okay.
You were talking about, did you call them limiting factors in the beginning?
Limiting beliefs.
Okay. So this is something that I struggle with personally. I don't view them as limiting beliefs. I view them as me being a realist.
Mhm.
How do I like navigate those waters from when I'm limiting myself or when I'm just scapegoating through my supposed realism?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you jump off a building, you're gonna fall. Like, gravity is not a limiting belief, but like asking, here's one to ask is, if I had a different belief, what would it
Right.
be?
Okay.
Because it's really easy, and like everyone, once again, like like all this stuff I'm teaching you, everyone does this. That's why I teach it. Like, I do all this stuff. Like, I have all these tools, and I still need to remember to use them. But asking yourself, and finding moments to be a little unrealistic. Like, find moments to suspend your belief and be like, if I believe something else, what would it be? And if I believe it for the next 10 minutes, what's something related to that I could do in the next 7 days? Because what you're trying to do is just kind of expand your lens a little bit.
Right.
Because then you're going to see things that you didn't see before.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that.
I'll let someone else jump in. Nobody? Nobody. I have one from an extended audience.
Okay.
How do you know when to let it go?
Yeah.
Like, when does it become counterproductive in search of that achievement, I guess?
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, because a lot of people I didn't get into this because it's very like heady, but
Right.
it's like there's the goal, but then there's the goal behind the goal. So like two people might, well, no one's moving anywhere now because we have COVID, but like two people might move to Chicago. So one person would be like, I am looking for a totally new experience. I want to live in a bustling city and I want to go to Chicago. And they're moving there for a new experience. And then let's see if I can hold on to this example. And then there might be someone else who's like, my life's not working here. I have terrible relationships, so I'm going to move to Chicago. But like, if that person's not doing the things, like changing the things that got them into those terrible relationships, they're going to go to Chicago and do the same thing. Like, I've seen people change jobs many times, and at every single job, they don't like their coworkers. Someone's always micromanaging them, like whatever it is. And it's like, it gets to a point where it's like, what are you trying to achieve? Because changing that job might not actually like do that. So like a lot of people talk about money, like, oh, I want to make more money. It's like, well, why? It's like, well, I want to feel more security. And it's like, is there a different way to do that? And is money going to get you there or whatever it is? So just really understanding, is what you're doing. Stephen Covey puts it in a really good way. He talks about ladder, and he's like, if you're climbing a ladder, make sure it's leaning against the right wall, because you could do all this work thinking you're ending up someplace, and you get there and look around and you're like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. So really being clear on what you want to feel, what you want to experience, and then the actions that will help you feel that. Because you might be able to do that today. Like if you're feeling, oh my God, my life is so out of control, what can I control today? I can find 15 minutes to sit quietly in a room. Like I can control that, and I can experience that, and then see how, and then build off of that. I have a question in the chat, and yes, you have seen this is being recorded, and you'll be able to access it on YouTube, but I'll email it to everyone that came tonight. I have your email addresses. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
Hi, Janet. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks, this was helpful. I took a lot of good notes because I really enjoyed reading a book called Micro Habits that I listened to on Audible, which is part of a habit I have when I walk the dog, but it helped so I can get more books in. So I did the subscription, then I listened to the books. But what Audible, or rather Micro Habits helped me with was just like you said, attaching something to a routine, something to another thing. So right before I go to bed at night, there is a fitness routine. It's actually very brief. It's just I plank, where you it's like a push-up. So because Ruth Bader Ginsburg every day. And so with that, I've linked up. And so I will often like go to bed and then jump up and say, and of course, in the past month, more than ever, I want to make sure I do. And I feel like it's evolving to something just past it. Because there's a benefit to it, a health benefit or muscular, bone density, I suppose, element of it, which is why I started it. But now I'm thinking while I'm doing it of not just what's next for me, I think about the person who inspired me to do it, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then I have another thing. So then I need to find, are there chains of habits? Is that a thing that you kind
Yeah, if you liked that book, I haven't read that book, but I know of it. Another book you might really like is The Power of Habit. And what I liked about it, it's written by a journalist, so it's not it's written for someone who's not a psychologist or a neurologist or anything. And he starts the book, even the first chapter is worth the price of the book. He starts with something that these researchers had discovered is a keystone habit. And they profiled all these different people that had made huge changes in their lifestyle, like major changes. And what they discovered the commonality is they all started with this tiny habit. And they talk about this one woman, I'm going to paraphrase this exactly the story, but she was divorced, she was unhealthy, she was a smoker, she was in debt, she I think had lost her job, and she somehow ended up on this trip to Egypt. And she's sitting in this hotel room, and she got up in the morning and tried to light a cigarette, and she lit a pen on fire, and she was like, oh my God. And she went down the street and she looked across the desert, and she's like, a year from now, I'm going to cross the desert. I'm going to walk across the desert. And she got back to her hotel room and she's like, I need to feel like I have control. What can I do? And she said, well, I can quit smoking. I know I can do that. I don't have to worry about anything else, but I'm going to quit smoking. But then when she quit smoking, she started exercising because she felt better. And then when she was exercising, she was sleeping better. So then she felt healthier. And then she was eating better. And then she was able to get a job. And then she was like, so it was just that, like, being willing to do that one thing flowed into everything else. And it sounds like she kind of just found it intuitively, but that's why starting small can be really helpful, because it gets exponential. And I started a habit. I used an app for a while, but I wasn't very good at flossing my teeth. And then I got all these cavities and I'm like, I am going to floss my teeth every single day. so now I have a habit before bed. I floss my teeth, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, and then I read for a little bit and I go to bed. And there's nights where I don't feel like washing my face. I just don't feel like it. But I'm always aware of it. It's an actual habit. Like I don't have to think about it. I choose not to do it, but it's there. I don't have to think about it. So that's where the micro habits are really effective, because habits are not good or bad. They're just like mechanisms in our brain. So yeah, for sure. But you really like Power of Habit because he talks about this, like what is a habit, and how to create it.
Thanks. Yeah.
One more time on that title, Janet.
The Power of Habit by Charles I always want to say Duhigg, but I don't think that's it. Duggan, maybe? Power of.
I'm not sure if we have it in the library or not. I'll look into it.
Oh, it is Duhigg. I was right. Here, I'll post the link in the chat. It's been years since I read it. It came out a while ago, but I feel like it'll probably hold up. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that if you're interested in like the brain, like changes, like why changing is hard, is Joe Dispenza has a book called what's it called? Changing the Habit of Being Yourself. And he is a neurologist, and he gets into like you're about to change, and your brain's not wired to change, like we're just not. So you're so close, you're about to do it, and then your brain goes, no, don't change, and you stop. So it's like if you can bust through that last piece, you can get on the other side. Hey guys.
What happens when you have an emotional hang up as far as letting go? When you're cleaning out things that you've had for a long time and you need to make the space, but everything has an emotional, not everything, but a lot has an emotional attachment to it.
Are you talking about physically cleaning out or emotionally cleaning out?
No, physically cleaning out emotional stuff, such as treasures, gifts that people have given you, you know, paper stuff is easy to get rid of, but there's a quilt that your grandmother made, you know, and the thing of it is once it's gone, it's gone. And so I think it's a matter of trying to choose what you need to keep.
There's on our YouTube page, there's another workshop if you want to watch on decluttering, but yeah, it's hard. So that piece of acknowledging it's hard. So it's really easy for other people to come in and be like, this is all garbage, it's outdated, get rid of it. But yeah, it's hard. So acknowledge that. And also go back to your purpose and your goal. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to create space in your house? Are you trying to live more simply? And having that goal will help you let go of the other stuff, because you can always go back to that reference point. So my goal is to live more simply and have less clutter in my house. So having this thing that I haven't looked in 20 years doesn't have the use or the purpose it had before. Can I let this go?
Okay.
I don't know if that's helpful. It's hard. It is hard.
It is true that sometimes you end up discovering things that you may not have used, and all of a sudden you're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Or you do have attached, you know, like history, your history, your family history.
Yeah.
And, but there is a lot of, I know if it was somebody else's stuff, I would probably tell them to, you know.
Yeah, but really think about what your goal is. Really have a clear purpose moving forward, because I think that was a smart analogy, like the emotional hanger. Like, what are you going to fill that with? Because that's what happens for a lot of people. They throw stuff out and they haven't filled that hole, so they get more physical stuff. So like, what is it you're trying to fill that with? What do you want to replace that with? What's your new goal and your purpose?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna wrap up. I will send everyone on this list the PowerPoint I did tonight, and I'll send you a link to the recording so you can watch that again. Okay, great. All right, well,
Janet.
thank you, everyone.
That's
Thanks for
great.
I appreciate your attention. Email me with
Thank you.
questions. Oh, it's funny, 4 of us are did. Okay, anyway, thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, Anne.
Bye.
Bye, Anns.